just a second, folks. I'm getting a couple things set up.
Who's gonna be here with us?
Pelly might get on. I figured most people aren't going to be on just because it's a holiday, but Pelly might. I think he's babysitting his kid right now. It'll probably just be me and you today, so we're not going to go too long. Alright, let me get up the live chat real quick. Here it is. Let me do an option turn off the music. There we go. Turn that down. Alright, I think we are about ready.
Alright.
Alright, hello YouTube. This is Venom with Exiled Existence, and today we have Dash Dude. We are back for episode 2 of our weekly podcast. How you doing today there, Dash?
Good.
Good stuff, good stuff. Alright, so today the game I got playing in the background is Neon Chrome. I picked it up on PlayStation for free. I started this already. Alright, so let's go ahead and get right into it. This is our little holiday podcast. We have a lot to talk about and not a lot of time. We're not going to go 2 hours like we did last time. We're going to try and keep it down to about an hour. But we'll see what happens. But we've had a lot of stuff in the news here in the last week or so. And most of it is about, loot boxes. It's been a topic of my videos here lately and the main topic of the last podcast. So I'm going to start off with a couple of things. I don't know if you saw the video or not there, Dash. I put out a video talking about loot boxes potentially getting banned and how Belgium have considered them gambling. Put that video out pretty much as soon as article came out about it. There's been a couple revisions I need to put out there first. There was a bit of a mistranslation with the article. They're not banning them yet. They're still looking into them. The way it's going, honestly, it's looking pretty good. But right now they have not been banned in Belgium yet. They are wanting to ban them. They've not been done yet. However, the part of the video I made that did not get mixed up, because this is from the US, Hawaii is still looking into loot boxes as potential gambling. If it is made gambling, I mean, the gaming commission would have to get involved for these games to even be sold. And they're not necessarily... They didn't say they want to ban loot boxes outright in Belgium. What they want to do is ban the practice of in-game purchases where you don't know what you're buying. So microtransactions, say like in any other game where you can like outright buy a character for a certain amount of money or buy a cosmetic for a certain amount of money, that's looking like it would likely be okay. The thing that would not be okay would be the randomized loot boxes where you don't know what you're getting into or getting in them. I believe Australia, and I'll be going back and forth with gameplay and everything, but let's see. Right now I got an article here, the Australian gambling analyst, and this is an article from PC Gamer. That is trying to give me an ad right now. There we go. PC Gamer news article by Andy Chalk. Australian gambling analyst says loot boxes constitute gambling by legal definition, and it's been updated. It says a Victorian Commission for Gambling and Liquor Regulation analyst said the real question is what to do about it as far as them. Okay, this is the update on this article is while the VCGLR has not yet ruled on whether loot boxes constitute unauthorized gambling as defined by Victorian law, it confirmed that it is aware of the issue of loot boxes and in the process of assessing the legal status and the potential dangers that they pose. So right now, it's not that anything's getting banned. Everyone's looking. I keep looking up at my picture versus actually at the camera. It's really hard to do that. Sorry. So right now what's going on is everyone's looking at loot boxes to see if they constitute gambling. The way a lot of these legislators are talking about them, they say it looks like gambling. They essentially don't want gambling sold to children. What's the name of that guy again? I forgot the guy's name. Essentially, they say that it looks like gambling, but one, they want to know who's actually got the authority to do something about it, and two, because this is the government working on it, it may take a while to actually have anything done about it. So right now, nothing's being banned. Again, EA did pull microtransactions at the last minute for Battlefront 2. And the way the gaming industry is looking right now, pretty much any game that's going to have microtransactions or loot boxes in particular is really kind of going to be up against the ropes because people are looking at these items, these kind of microtransactions, and they're not happy about it. With the horrible PR that EA got over it and is still getting over it, there's a good possibility, some of these games aren't going to have loot boxes here in the future. They might. We don't know. I mean, there's a lot to go into on that. So we'll go from there. So what are your thoughts about regulations? I don't know how much you've looked into it. Probably not that much, honestly, but I have no idea. So what are your thoughts about the situation right now there, Dash?
Honestly, I feel like I really hope that it gets banned because it'll actually encourage the companies like EA to actually put more effort in their games. That's my opinion.
Yeah, and that's something's kind of irked me too, is that these games that have microtransactions aren't usually that good either. I mean, yeah, there are some that are good, but the ones that have like loot boxes and stuff, they aren't that great as far as I can tell. I mean, they could probably do a whole lot better with them. Again, from what I've seen a few reports. Jim Sterling's was the main one where he talked about the game being extremely buggy, but I haven't seen too many other people talking about that, so it could just be his experience. I don't know. But, I mean, it looks like, the game has been made for microtransactions in mind from the ground up. I mean, the whole game was made around microtransactions, essentially. So, yeah, I mean, the whole reason that they keep saying they want to put loot boxes in the games is so they can help monetize them because games cost too much to develop. They need to make their money back. One of the other excuses is so that it'll fund future DLC for free. And, a lot of that's just categorically not true. You don't have to have loot boxes or even really microtransactions in your game to make your money back. You just need to concentrate on making a good game. And if your game tanks because you made a shitty game, then, that's just, free market. That's the nature of the industry. If your game sucks, you shouldn't, make your money back. If you don't put any time and effort into it or give people what they want, why should you make your money back?
Right.
So that's just my 2 cents. So one thing that is really worrying me about all this, though, is while I'm temporarily happy that the government is potentially stepping in or at the very least looking at microtransactions now, I don't necessarily like the government in gaming business. They don't do a great job at anything, really. And, I don't want the gaming industry really more regulated than it has to be. I still think eventually the free market, well, I can't even say that, though, because people will still buy loot boxes regardless of if it's shitty content or not. And that's the thing that kind of worries me. I don't want there to be loot boxes, and I don't want the government to have to step in to take care of them. At the same time, I don't necessarily trust people to not buy them either. Just because, especially like EA, they have a freaking, monopoly on certain types of games. Like Star Wars, for example. The only ones that can make Battlefront are EA. I think they also control the, what the hell's the FIFA games. Only they can make FIFA right now, I believe. I think I want to say it's true. Essentially, they're the biggest name in town when it comes to these games, and they essentially got a monopoly on them, so they can do whatever they want to with them because they know people are going to pay for them. So.
Yeah, I feel like I also don't like the idea of governments. I feel like that like EA should do it themselves, like get rid of that themselves without having to ask.
Well, I'm wondering too, if they start regulating stuff like loot boxes, how much more, I don't think it's going to end there too. I think they're going to start looking into more stuff like Grand Theft Auto. And okay, well, if we're going to regulate loot boxes, why don't we regulate all this other stuff too, like how much violence can be shown in a game or what can you actually make a game about it and that kind of thing too. And that's kind of a slippery slope to be going into. I don't like the idea of them getting their mitts on my games. I don't want
Yeah.
Grand Theft Auto 6 to never get made because the government stepped in and said no, you can't have this in your game, and that's kind of the worry if they do step in and do something about loot boxes. Um, Now, it would also depend on who actually enforces this too, because if this is something that the Gambling Commission would look at, then it'd still be the government, but those are already set regulations. The ideal situation for me is that randomized loot boxes get banned outright, and then they just stop. They don't look too much more into gaming. They don't look to try to regulate anything else, and we just get rid of loot boxes early. Now, that's my hope, but I'm not sure if it's going to happen or not.
Yeah, it might take a while.
Yeah, and that's the other thing too. I mean, I'm really happy that something's getting done this quick. I didn't think it would happen this quick if it did, or if anyone would look at it this quick. I thought it would, have to end up being free market very slowly over the next decade. Kind of taking care of this. But I mean, I'm surprised at how quickly this is kind of coming to fruition. I mean, I didn't think they'd be looking at this quickly. So again, I'm happy about it, but again, it's government, so this could take a long time to actually amount to anything, too.
Yeah.
Oh, God. Avoid the lasers, avoid the lasers.
And I really hope that I won't have to see loot boxes in Anthem or anything like that.
Yeah, that is my biggest fear. I want another game that's a Destiny I don't want to say killer because it's pretty much already dead, but Destiny competitor. That's something open world-ish like Destiny where you can get in the squad. I mean, again, Monster Hunter World is going to be my next real game for that, but I want something that's, kind of like a Destiny or Anthem style, too.
Yeah.
Nope, shit. Fucking lasers. Oh, fucking lasers. Ah, lasers. Damn it. No more damn lasers. So yeah, I'm hoping that the developers have seen how people are reacting to loot boxes. I mean, right now, any game that has it is essentially a big joke. I mean, even saying your game has loot boxes is potentially dooming your game to not sell. On the surface, anyway. I'm afraid that Anthem's going to look really good, that it's going to play amazing, and that we're going to end up having loot boxes in it anyway. Even though it's got such a stigma to it right now, like if you mention that your game has loot boxes, you're pretty much laughed at, or people are already making memes and talking shit about your game. I don't want Anthem to become that. I really don't.
Yeah.
But I'm still
I
scared
feel like
it will.
I just feel like that loot boxes should stay in mobile games. You know?
Yeah, like I got no problem with it in mobile games. It's a free-to-play game. I don't even mind loot boxes in free-to-play games. That are specifically, you can pick it up for free. Yeah, it's a super long grind if you don't buy anything. But there's no excuse for it in a paid game. And that's for power items and for cosmetics. The way I see it, if you pay $60 for a game, you should be able to unlock everything inside that game reasonably well and not have to pay additional money to do it. I don't like the idea of having to spend, or even having the option to spend additional money to buy cosmetic items in a loot box. Maybe, say, if you had like extra costumes or something, you could spend like $1 on outright and you know exactly what it is that you're getting. I'd probably be fine with that, but even then, that's still kind of slippery territory for me. But the idea of loot boxes in a paid game, under no circumstances, for any item you can find in the loot boxes, is that okay for me?
Right. I should only have to pay $60 unless there's extra DLC for content that I actually want.
Yeah, and by DLC too, not stuff that's already made that you're just holding on to charge people extra for it. If you got a game that's already made, don't try and charge people extra money for stuff you've already made. That's kind of a shitty thing to do. For example, Horizon Zero Dawn, what is it called? The Wild? The new, I'll even look this up. This is unprofessional. Hold on a second. Let's look it up real quick. Google. Let's see. Damn, I just completely spazzed out. There we go. There we go. DLC. What's the DLC? Oh, there you go. Frozen Wilds. I want to say Call of the Wild. What game is that? Frozen Wild. Imagine if, freaking Horizon came out and they already had everything set up for freaking the Frozen Wilds. Imagine if they already had all those maps, they already had that storyline, but they, instead of giving that with the base game, they decided to just charge extra for it. That's the shitty thing to do. You should make your game first and then worry about DLC later. First make a solid game, then make any DLC you want to make for the thing later.
Yeah, I also like when a game, like, you can tell they put effort into it.
And like that goes back to what I was saying before. I mean, make a good game, and 9 times out of 10 it'll sell. Like, it can, especially in AAA. Now, indie games, yeah, it can be hard for indie game developers to really get their game's name out there and everything and advertise. AAA developers, AAA companies don't have that problem. They can spend all the money they want to on advertising on a good game. Problem is that they spend a ton of money on advertising for shitty games. Or games that are just full of loot boxes. So, yeah, making a great game is the first, second, and third thing you should worry about. All that extra stuff, that comes later. So, but that's just what's going on with loot boxes right now. Pretty much everyone is jumping on the bandwagon with investigating them, seeing what they want to do with them, if they constitute gambling or not. Yeah, you can't technically make any money off of them if you're a purchaser. For example, I mean, in a casino, you can actually, potentially win money. You can't do that with a loot box like in Battlefield. That's been people's biggest "this isn't gambling" argument because you can't make money off of them. That's a shitty argument, first off. Second off, gambling is gambling, even if you can't get money. So that's my thing there. I mean, if you don't know what it is you're buying, if there's only a chance to get something, then it's gambling. So we'll see how that ends up playing out. So there's been a ton of development. It's all kind of up in the air right now. No one knows what's going to happen. It's honestly looking kind of optimistic, but I don't want to start getting too happy too quick. I mean, it's great news we're getting right now, but it could still end up going pretty bad. They can come out and say, no, this isn't gambling. They can do what they want, and it's up to the free market to deal with it. Or they can come out and say, hey, this is gambling. Take it out of your games. No more randomized loot boxes. They have to know what they're buying if they do anything, or if they buy anything.
All right. Do we want to talk about the new genre or the horror genre?
Yep, we said we were going to do some horror genre stuff today. So, you're a bit more up to date on it. You showed me a couple of games to look up. The first one was Little Monsters, the platformer, right? Or, yeah.
Little Nightmares.
Little Nightmares, that's what it is. It actually looked pretty interesting. You said you hadn't played it yet. I haven't either, obviously. It's rare that I actually like playing platformers nowadays, but that one does look pretty interesting just because it's kind of a, a horror type of platformer. And you don't really see good platformers too often, let alone horror platformers. I mean, really, I'd rarely see a good horror game, period, anymore. I know The Evil Within 2 has just come out. I haven't got to play it. Never played the first one. What's the game we were talking about last week that's coming out next year? You're really excited about it?
Last of Us 2.
That one looks pretty. Yep, that one looks pretty good too. Truth is, I love horror games, but I've yet to really play one that really scared me since Condemned. Have you ever played the Condemned series?
I know, but I've heard about it.
Yep, I think it's only 2 games. It was more of a realistic type setting as far as how like weapons and stuff work. Like you can only hold one weapon at a time. You couldn't like store up on them or anything. You couldn't usually pick up extra ammo. You usually just kind of had to go through the level, pick up weapons where you could. Most of the game was melee, but it was really good. It was really scary, and I don't see a whole lot of games like that too much anymore. Again, I'm sure there are some games out there like that. I have not played Evil Within. I may end up getting 2 when it comes out. We'll see. I know that Dash is pretty excited about it, but I got pretty high expectations for it just because that game was so. I mean, it was scary as crap. The second one got a little off the rails with the storyline, but it was still more condemned. It was still pretty scary. And part of that was not so much the storyline, just how they set things up, too. I mean, it was mostly melee 90% of the time. Again, couldn't hold on to weapons too long. Your weapons could break. Your Senshi could only use what was in your environment. I mean, they did it really well. That kind of put my expectations for horror pretty out. Oh, come on, Arcus, you're in the camp. Oh, you're gonna get me. You got me killed, buddy. Thanks. You're the greatest cat ever. Get down. But yeah, I mean, besides that and my fear of water playing Subnautica, that's about the only thing that's really scared me here lately.
Yeah. We also have this other game called Agony. It's you're kind of like in the depths of hell, and it's using Unreal Engine 4.
Unreal 4, huh? Okay,
So the trailer for it. Let's see. Yeah, so it's basically like you're in hell, and its genre is a survival horror, right?
Yeah, I believe so, from what I saw.
Now, I haven't heard too much about it, but I've seen the trailer, and it's coming out in 2018.
Yep, I watched a bit of the trailers for. I watched a trailer for it. It looked pretty interesting. It really did. Immediately creeped out. Not necessarily scared when I started it, but immediately creeped out by what I saw. So depending on how they do that, the atmosphere looked pretty cool, honestly. When the first thing you see is a guy getting his throat bitten out, that's it's not bad. It's not bad. What was the other one I was looking? Oh yeah, Moons of Madness. I'm not, because I haven't found any other real footage from this one except for the 20-minute IGN video they had. It looks interesting. It looks like it'll be pretty scary, and it takes place in space, so that's always a bonus for me having a space game. It looks like it'd be pretty cool. I can't tell if there's like any kind of building or anything in here. I think it might be a linear game. I'm not against that. I love sandboxes, but I like linear games too.
We also have this other game. Let's see, what was it called? Oh yeah, it's actually a new, like, kind of a multiplayer kind of thing going on. You ever heard of Friday the 13th, the game?
Yeah.
It's kind of like Dead by Daylight in a way. And it's a new kind of concept on multiplayer horror, where you have one killer, then you chase these other teenagers around. Sort of gameplay. Let me see.
I'm saying it's really a new concept to me. It's been coming out a bit more recently. There's that one. Was it The Killing Ground, I think, was the other one like that? That came out before Friday the 13th. There's another one recently, or I don't think it's been too recent anymore. There's another one that was like that. Don't see a lot of them, I give you that, especially with horror games, but there's a few indie games that have been like that that actually look pretty cool. But, yeah, her Friday the 13th was pretty good. There were some issues with the development team and the fans, should I say, but as far as I know, they've gotten a lot of that worked out. I think, at the very least, I haven't heard anything about it in a while, so I'll look into that one, too, this week.
I think it had to do with the bugs at the very start at its launch, where people couldn't play, or barely any people got to get in the game.
Oh, that's right. And they also did a bit of an AMA live stream, too, I heard, and that one didn't go too well. I heard a lot of questions got ignored on that one, too. That kind of... I don't want to go too far into the weeds here. That kind of brings up a different subject, too. Remember how I talked about how that Reddit AMA for Battlefront was the most downvoted Reddit post in history?
Yeah.
I see a lot of developers doing stuff like, AMAs, Ask Me Anythings, and they avoid a lot of questions that people tend to ask a lot. Just in case any developer it happens to see this video at some point down the line, I'd like to know why it is you tend to avoid the hard questions. Um, those are usually the ones people want to know about more than anything. Especially that Battlefront too. I know Jim Sterling had a few hard questions on there. A few other people had some pretty difficult questions on there, and it's like they go into it not really wanting to answer any questions you have, like they claim they do. They go in there looking for an excuse to give the answers that they want to give, versus actually answer any other questions. I say this because I happen to know that I had some friends who played Friday the 13th. During one of the AMAs for it, and they did not get their question answered, and many other people asked the exact same question about the bugs and about the multiplayer, and their questions also went unanswered apparently. Now, I don't remember the specific questions, so don't ask me, but I just happen to notice that whenever there's an AMA, it's never answering the questions people want to know about. Like, it's always an excuse to say, well, we're working hard as a team, we're trying to bring you a great experience. It's never, okay, why are there so many bugs at this stage in the game? What are you doing to work on it? Are you guys actually working on it? Or are you just trying to gaff us off? What's going on here?
Yeah, it gets kind of really awkward when someone asks a hard question and then, like, they try to avoid it as much as possible.
And I can understand avoiding it, a little bit, or just saying we don't have. I could even respect saying we don't really have an answer at this time. Things are kind of up in the air. There's no way they don't see these questions, though. That's the thing. Ignoring it is worse than just saying, you know what, we don't know, we're working on it, we can't figure out the problem. I think they'd get a lot more respect, and I'm talking about developers in general. We get a lot more respect if they just came out and said, we don't know occasionally.
Yeah, but not too much.
Yeah, like if we say, when's your game going to come out? You've been working on it for 4 years. You don't have any kind of deadline or something. Yeah, that's not really acceptable. But if we've got bugs or multiplayer or something, we want to at least know that you're working on it without the usual fluff piece of, we're working hard to get you a great experience. We're doing this, this, and this. No, give us a timeline. Tell us you're actually trying to do something with this game. Don't just gaff us off. Let us know you actually care. And ignoring us does not let us know that.
Oh, didn't like the No Man's Sky, like the development team, they completely like ignored all questions and all that?
Oh man, that was a good one. For a bit they did. Initially, before the game came out, Todd Howard. No, wait, no, it's not Todd Howard. I'm thinking of freaking Bethesda. Sorry about that. What the fuck is that guy's name? Well, Hello Games was the name of the studio, but Hello Games was on Twitter all the freaking time talking about how the game was awesome, how they were working hard on the game. Game came out, of course, huge disappointment. One of the biggest freaking gaming gaps in history, basically. And then dead silence. We're talking a company that was tweeting every day, sometimes multiple times a day, to suddenly nothing at all. And people were honestly pissed about it. They did, and I know I mentioned this before, they did actually start working to fix the game. They've come out with several updates. I haven't checked to see if there's been any new updates due to come out soon. I know they were hiring a lot more staff members and stuff here recently. I need to honestly see what they're planning on doing or if they've got anything else in the works. But they put out a lot of updates for free after they fixed it. And instead of talking and tweeting every day like they did before, it's essentially just been media silence since they've been working on this. Now, normally, I'd be pretty ticked about it. Still kind of annoyed about it. Normally, when we get kind of a developer gaffing us off when we're asking questions and when they've been so verbal in the past and they just suddenly stop talking, I'd say they're just taking the money and running. Their game ended up sucking. They're just taking the money. We're not going to hear from them again to 3 years later when they're trying to sell us a new game and they claim that they've learned all their lessons. They actually made huge steps to fix their game. Excuse me. They've not been verbal. They have been working on the game. At this point, the game is worth the initial price, I'd say. I'd still like to see them talk more about what they have going on because as of right now, they don't talk. They're working on updates. They release updates, but they don't talk and let us know what's going on. So we don't know when something new is coming down the line, really. The way we know stuff right now is that data miners usually go in, they check to see what files have been added. Crap, I died again. And that's how we're getting a lot of our leaks and stuff. But we're not really getting too much of an update on, hey, we're working on this, we're working on that. We'll get like one, small press release, and then eventually a huge patch will come out, and it'll have like a ton more features in it. So, I mean, it's annoying. At least they're working to fix it. I'd say most companies don't do that, and even less companies actually work to really fix their game once it's been screwed. Like the Destiny 2 developers. Bungie, I've yet to see anything really addressing any of the issues that we have with Destiny 2. And we're talking stuff from day one. The vendors are still screwed. The entire game is essentially still RNG. Still can't reuse shaders. We know they're still trying to push. Damn, I can't remember what the name of the Ingrams called. What's the freaking Glimmer Ingram, Shiny Ingram? It's fucking Shiny Ingrams. We know they're still trying to sell them, but it's still not really worth it to do any of that, and it's not even worth it to play the game right now.
Right. I quit like a month ago, I think.
Yeah, I think we all pretty much just kind of quit around the same time. I mean, it hit like a brick wall, too. When you play a game that doesn't have any content in it, I mean, it's going to hit you like a brick wall. I mean, at first it was fine. We got a little bit of new story. We got through the raid, and then suddenly, oh, wow, there's really nothing to do in this game, is there? I mean, we beat the raid, but now it's just back to the original grind of Iron Banner or Trials. It's just all back to PvP crap now. And even that's not really worth it, and even that was broken.
Right, so we need like something new to offer for the game that they can offer us.
Yeah, and part of this is just what they built up in Destiny 1 and its comparison. I admit it's unfair, but we had, admittedly, a lot of stuff we could do. Granted, some of it may have been boring, but it was really got boring after you did it. Like the Prison of Elder, stuff like that, the Trials, Iron Banner. We had a ton of different raids. We had a ton of story content to go through. Granted, there wasn't much of a story, but there were still technically story missions to go through and do. Tons of different vendors, even if, half of them were useless, because there were only really a couple that really sold what we wanted. But there were at least options to do stuff there. Right now, all we've got to do is do the main story, do the raid, and then when they feel like, hosting these events, do Iron Banner, and then do the faction rallies, which is still, to this day, irks me that faction rallies are now timed events.
Right. And the raids in the first game felt special because the gear that you got was meant for the raid.
Yeah, exactly. It had a purpose to it. It wasn't just another piece of gear, which essentially all armor in this game is essentially just a skin right now. I mean, you can mod it to do whatever you want. All it is just different looks. And in a game where your gear essentially is nothing but looks, giving us one-time use shaders is even more of an insult.
Alright, let's get back to horror games. I still want to talk about these two games that had the high expectations but didn't meet them. And these two games are Outlast 2 and Resident Evil 7.
Alright, go ahead with it. Let's start with Outlast 2.
Alright, in Outlast 2, it was more so with this game because the first game, right, was really good. It was amazing. However, the second game kind of felt short, and the ending was especially not very good.
Alright, what kind of game was Outlast? I know it's horror. Set up what kind of game it was for me, because again, I haven't played these games, and I'm guessing other people haven't, so what kind of game was Outlast 1? You said it was good, right?
Yeah, it was basically like a run and hide kind of game, in a way, but it was a lot more scarier.
I kind of get just in like like a survival horror, but you don't really so much have weapons. You kind of just had a stealthy way around the map, that kind of thing.
All right.
dash.
Okay.
You good?
Yeah, I had to do something.
Oh, no, you good.
All
So it's
right.
kind of
So,
like
but LS2, they changed the map to like a hillbilly barn kind of thing, right?
okay.
And Resident Evil 7, it was kind of like the same thing with the hillbillies.
Yeah,
And in
that's right. You're trapped in the
LS2,
house.
yeah, you're trapped in the house with these hillbillies trying to kill you and all that. And the first part was actually I really liked, but at near when you got to the cruise area, it got really boring and it wasn't as creepy as it was in the haunted house.
Hmm. So they kind of kill the
Um,
horror factor of it, huh?
yeah, it really got only scary when you met with the monster. And even then, you got the same enemy type every time, so they got less and less scary every time. So there wasn't any new enemy types to face. It was the same thing. You had to shoot over and over again.
It's kind of
And
shitty. So
this
a
is
horror
also
game that's
especially
not scary,
true.
basically.
Yeah, well, it's scary at the first part, right?
Mm-hmm.
But it turns more into the last Resident Evil, more like where you just shoot with guns and that's it. You just keep on shooting.
Man, and see, here's what gets me too. I didn't start playing Resident Evil until like later in the series when it was more of just a shooter. So I think the last one I even attempted to play was 6, and I didn't find anything scary about it at all. I'm like, this is just a zombie shooter basically. It's just a little monster shooter. So
Yeah, now,
I came late in the game with the Resident Evil series. I was playing more Final Fantasy RPG type stuff. Then I got into really more diverse games later. But yeah, I know from just listening to people and look at game videos that they kind of killed that genre. And again, you said Outlast 2, they just did the same thing with it. They just kind of killed the actual horror part of it.
yeah. And the first game, you were headed into an asylum, like an insane asylum, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you had different like enemies. You didn't have the same one over and over again. In Outlast 2, you had the same enemy, like dangerous enemy, chase you the whole game, or at least for most of the game.
That's. I'm guessing they didn't do it right because I could see it potentially being scary if they do it right. I'm guessing they didn't do it right since everyone seemed to have not liked it.
Just like Resident Evil 7, it was good at the start, but it felt short near when it's coming to the end, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if they're gonna do another game, I'm hoping that they take it back a little bit with the hillbilly stuff, because that it was good at first, but then it felt short at the end. And the best part about Outlast 2 was the school parts, where you would be taken, like it's kind of like a hallucination,
Mm-hmm.
where you would taken to inside of a school.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, I think it was the memory. It was like a memory, not a hallucination, and um, it was actually the memories of the character's past as a child, and they incorporated that with the horror elements like the monster in there. They give you a bunch of jump scares. They had the haunted house feel, but in a school where things would you'd hear like whispering, and then you'd have doors slamming, and then you have noises and all that.
It's more atmospheric type stuff versus.
Yeah, more atmospheric type stuff.
Gotcha. Huh.
While in the hillbilly area where the barn is, you'd be more likely just running around, hiding from the hillbillies, from, capturing you. You'd run to a certain point, and then that would start the next area.
Hmm.
And
Is
then
it?
eventually you have to fight this one enemy, which is kind of like the dangerous enemy in the first game,
Mm-hmm.
but not as good, except for some parts.
I don't know. I guess it would really just kind of depend for me. Atmospheric stuff can be scary, but if it's not done right, it really takes a lot of timing and stuff too. But
Yeah.
I don't know. Like I said, my bar for horror was set pretty high with Condemned. So that's just my take on it. But that's not or it's pretty much standard from what we've kind of seen for a lot of games too. You kind of mentioned it kind of turned into a shooter for some of these games. That's been kind of done on purpose. I mean, stuff like Call of Duty, Battlefield, I mean, even Battlefront, even though, the second one's obviously gone to crap. A lot of games have kind of turned more towards that shooter and even more so towards multiplayer focus just because those kind of games sell a ton of money or sell a ton of copies that make a lot of money. That's why we're seeing so many developers kind of go more towards that Call of Duty type. I mean, the Call of Duty franchises like broken records upon records and made tons of money. That's where everyone's kind of going towards. So stuff like horror games, especially. Not everybody likes horror games. Obviously, a lot of people don't like being scared. So that's kind of more of a specific audience. It's a big risk for companies to make stuff like horror games. At the same time, I mean, now we rarely get a good horror game anymore. Same thing with platforms. I mean, any other kind of game. I mean, take Fallout 4, for example. I mean, Fallout. I mean, don't get me wrong. I love Fallout 4. I really do. I like New Vegas better. Fallout 4 feels a lot more like a shooter than it does an actual Fallout game, which is supposed to be more of an RPG. But you kind of notice that. I don't know. Did you ever play any other Fallouts?
I remember playing one on PC.
Either New Vegas. It would have been
It was
either
Fallout 3.
Okay, Fallout 3. Yeah, Fallout 3, I mean, I love the storyline of it. I mean, it was a great RPG. The shooting mechanics sucked in it, but I mean, other than that, I mean, it wasn't a shooter. It felt more like an RPG that just took place, in a three-dimensional space, but it had more RPG elements to it. Fallout 4 is, essentially a straight-up shooter. Every perk you get in the game is essentially stuff to help you, heal or shoot better, versus how it was in the other Fallouts where the perks actually do like weird, crazy stuff. Like they completely change up how the game is played, essentially. Leveling up really just means, hey, another 20% damage or, so much more health than Fallout 4 versus how it used to be. They move more towards the shooter genre, and a lot of people love the game. I mean, I still like it. I had stuff that I would change about it, but it still did decent. But the hardcore fans of it, everyone pretty much agrees, this does not feel like a Fallout game, really.
Right.
And it's because developers moving more towards that shooter type genre because they sell a lot. So seeing a lot more creative games coming out, seeing a lot more of the games that we love, like horror, get turned into, Call of Duty-esque games has become more and more common. That's why everything looks more like a Call of Duty or a shooter now.
Yeah, that's especially true with the Resident Evil 7, where the horror turned into a shooter.
Yeah, switching up in the middle like that, I don't like it. How a game starts generally is how it needs to keep going. If you want to make a shoot, or I should say, don't try and split the genres up like that. If that's your intent, make it work all the way throughout. It can be a balancing act, but if you're going to make a horror game, your main focus of it should be the horror. Don't kind of like shoehorn, shooting in there or something like that. I'll admit it can be a balance. And if it's not done right, then, the whole game suffers.
Yeah. And it had guns at the start of the game. Like you can shoot and do stuff like that in the start of the game. But eventually the game turned into only a shooter, not a horror.
Yes, yeah, I couldn't do that. Horror games are supposed to be scarier and scarier until you get to the end. You finally make your way to it. You get past whatever scary crap there is, and that's what it's supposed to be. It's supposed to scare you. In a horror game, I don't want to necessarily have a gun. I could, depending, again, how you set it up, but I don't necessarily I want to feel helpless in a horror game. I want to actually feel like there is actual horror or something scary that's coming to get me. I don't want to feel like I really have a fighting chance too much. That's the point of a horror game, to be scared.
Right. Or make the gun be your last resort and not like a thing that you rely on.
Yeah, like super limited ammo, or you can only get so many bullets you can never find more ammo. You just have to drop the gun, or you got to rely on your fists or hiding. That's the way it should be done. Now you can make like nightmarish, zombie type games. That's another thing that kind of screwed up everything too. Why everything also has zombies in it, just because Call of Duty Zombies did so damn well. It's another one of the reasons everything's got zombies nowadays. I mean, besides just the random zombie craze, that's one of the reasons why everything's got a zombie mode. Everything's revolves around zombies now too. That's why you see, again, a reason why everything looks the same now. So there's
Probably why I took a liking to Agony when I first saw it is because you felt like you're in hell, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so you're trying to go your way through hell without any weapons, is what it looks like.
Yeah, I don't remember seeing any in the trailer.
Especially when it's creepy as hell, you got nothing to defend yourself with.
Yeah, like I said, it's looking pretty good. I got pretty high hopes for it. Something else too, a lot harder to shovel loot boxes into horror games. Trying to think what else there is. What was the other game you were talking about?
Okay, we got Resident Evil 7, got ILS 2, Agony, Friday the 13th, Evil Within. Let's see, Little Nightmares. Those are the ones we talked about so far. You also talked about Condemned, I think.
Yeah, Condemned is one I would. Yeah, I need to try and find those games again. It's been long enough since I played them. I mean, I could probably play them right now and know what's going to happen, and they'll probably still scare me. That's the kind of game Condemned is. And it's not going to play the same way each time you go through. I mean, yeah, you know how the story goes, but just because of the way you have to hide again, it's a survival horror game. Well, yeah, essentially survival horror game, and you're not going to play it the same way twice. And I loved it. Scared the living crowd. It was one of the only games where I refused to play it in the dark. That's how much it scared me.
Even Subnautica?
50-50 on that one. There have been times where I refused to play that game in the dark. There are times when I was fine with it. It really... Like, there are spots in Subnautica, like, especially the starting area where it is, it's fine. It's the starting area, it's kind of... Yeah, there's a couple little dangers. Actually, one of the creepiest sounding creatures is in the opening area of Subnautica, but once you know what it is, you're like, okay, it's not that bad. But I mean, there's there's an easy area, there's a safe-ish area. It's called the Safe Shallows. But yeah, there's no safe area in Condemned. Anywhere you go, it's just creepy. I mean, you're not safe anywhere. Subnautica, there are safe areas. Especially once you get your submarine. Once you got all your upgrades, I mean, you're essentially, depending on where you are, you're untouchable at that point.
I mean, is it focused on horror or is it like a different genre?
No, Subnautica isn't a horror game. It just scares me because I have the fear of the ocean. It's a survival sandbox game, but in the realm of it doesn't go on forever. There's actually an end state to the game. It's like Grand Theft Auto. Yeah, you can keep playing it forever if you want, but you can also beat the game as well. I mean, there is an end to the story. Yeah. So I've got a world on Subnautica right now. I've done everything I can in it. It's still early access, so the ending isn't finished yet, but eventually you will be able to beat the game. So there's an end to it, or you can just keep going and keep, making creations or doing what you want to and exploring. But, it is a finite area. There are technically finite amounts of most resources in there. Some you can get an infinite amount of. It just depends on what it is, really. But yeah, that one, it's... I guess it would technically have some horror elements to it, but, I mean, really, it just gets a horror category for me just because I happen to have that phobia.
Right. All right, so let's list off some of the things that you want to see in a horror game.
First and foremost, a horror game should actually scare me. Don't just stick a zombie or some creepy stuff in a game and then package it off as a horror game. That's not a horror game. That's just a creepy, weird shooter you made. I mean, specifically, I want to feel like I'm helpless in the game. It's fine to like upgrade yourself and get more powers and that kind of thing, but I shouldn't be able to walk around a horror game at all times being able to kill everything I come across. Like Silent Hill. That'd be a perfect example of horror games that I actually like. And in those games, you can find guns and stuff everywhere. But the way they do it, I mean, the way they do the atmosphere and everything from the fog when you're walking through places, the way the areas turn into the other world, the creepy, iconic creatures like the nurses, pyramid heads, stuff like that. I mean, when you see these creatures, they fill you with fear because you know what they are. I mean, playing through the first Silent Hills, I mean, you couldn't do shit against Pyramid Head or some of these creatures. I mean, you spend a good part of the game without any weapons. I mean, they do jump scares, but they don't overdo them. I mean, if the entire game is just nothing but jump scares, you're going to expect it at every corner. It doesn't get scary anymore. And they're all not necessarily in places where you expect them. I mean, there are some games that you play, you know there's a jump scare coming. Either because the music starts changing, or is a place where it's like, okay, obviously there's going to be a jump scare. I just saw this door open. Something's going to pop out there. Silent Hill did it fairly well. I mean, good blend of atmosphere, jump scares, creepy creatures, pretty good storylines, a sense of being powerless the entire time. That's how you do a good horror game. Other than that, I mean, that's all you really need besides having a decent story. I mean, I wouldn't even say you need a decent story, but you should have some kind of goal. Figuring out where you're at, trying to escape from someplace, things like that. That's what you need to have.
Yeah, and a game I want to look for is a game that can scare me without having to use jump scares.
Yeah,
If you
jump
have
scares,
that's really good.
they're like the cheapest way to try and scare somebody, and even then, half the games that do them don't do them right.
It's like a second scare, not rather than over time, I feel.
Yeah, it's not really a scare because I'm scared of the game. I'm scared because you just startled me is all. What you just jumped out at me is not actually scary. It's like a weird puppet or, some random crap. That's not scary. It's just you happen to startle me. You do the same thing to somebody, just sneaking up on them. That's not a big deal. So,
Right. And have you played Amnesia
actually,
at all?
I have downloaded the entire series. I was thinking of live streaming that. I got it off the PlayStation Network for free. So I have the PSN Plus, whatever. I haven't played it yet. I haven't even looked into it. I know people have played it. How is it? Have you played it?
No, not really. I was hoping that you played it.
Uh-uh. Matter of fact, give me just a second. My screen is going to go blue here if anyone's watching. Yeah, here we go. I got the Amnesia collection right here. No, don't start playing it. Yeah, I got the whole Amnesia collection, so I'm probably going to go through and try to play it and live stream it.
Yeah, I've heard that it's like one of those games where you don't have anything to defend yourself at all.
You don't have any what?
You don't have anything to defend yourself with.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I think so.
That will be interesting. Now this may end up being a game that I like then. This may end up being a good one. So I think I might go ahead and live stream that then at some point and see how much I like it. Other than that, I mean, using really what you have to the best of your advantage. I mean, again, jump scares are the cheapest way to scare somebody. Use your atmosphere. If your atmosphere sucks, you're not going to scare anybody. I mean, if you put someone in the middle of Minecraft and then drop Pyramid Head in there, it's just going to look silly. I mean, I'm pretty sure there's a mod for that, but if you're really trying to scare someone the entire time, it's just going to look really weird and silly. You're not going to really achieve what you wanted to achieve. That's really it. I mean, my threshold or my, see, I can't speak English today. My, man, I suck so much. That's not my stat. See, I just forgot all my English. I forgot all my English. it's not hard to make a good horror game to impress me, or it's not hard to impress me with a good horror game. There's just so many out there that are just so poorly done that, I mean, I really want to try them until I see reviews, until I see somebody play them a little bit, because my expectations are just so low now, and I don't want to play them.
So this next game will dictate what you think of the next games that are coming out.
Mm, like I said, Moons of Madness looks pretty good. It may end up sucking. I don't know. I can say that about any game. Again, I'm just partial to space games. In fact, I'm playing a little Space Engineers right now. In fact, I'm playing that after this. I don't know. I mean, I haven't really been looking forward to any horror games. The games that I've been looking forward to, I mean, the most, anything RPG, I'm usually kind of looking forward to. But again, I forgot that English word again. I mean, as far as horror, I'm not really looking forward towards anything. I'm looking forward to Monster Hunter World when it comes out. I'm looking forward to, and I say this knowing that it's probably not going to happen, I'm looking forward to potential good changes to Destiny 2. I doubt there are any. In fact, the buddy of mine I was talking to, who may join us at some point for a podcast, was just asking me what I thought of Destiny 2 because he was thinking about buying it. I told him flat out, don't do it. And he was like, yeah, I was on the ropes about buying it. I didn't know if I should. I told him, don't buy it. Do not buy it. I went over everything that was wrong with it, and he was like, yeah, I'm glad I didn't buy this. So I just saved someone the pain and heartache that we went through. He's not going to have to go through it. And he was a Destiny 1 player, too. He played the crap out of it.
Yeah.
Other than that, I mean, as far as what games come out, I really just kind of play whatever looks good at the time. And I go back and play a lot of my older games, too. Fallout New Vegas, I'm probably going to be playing again at some point soon. I love it. I just did a Fallout 4 playthrough. I finally did Nuka World. Did not like the concept of that DLC at first, which is something else that kind of ticked me off about Fallout 4. I don't like being pigeonholed into being a bad guy to get everything good, but it was definitely different as far as DLC choices went, but I didn't like it. It was a bad different. Again, playing some Space Engineers right now. I'll be going back to Subnautica again at some point, I'm sure. And then my wife and I tend to go back and forth between Minecraft servers quite a bit, too, because we play a lot of modded Minecraft.
All right. Well, I think that's enough for me for today. I've run out of time.
Yep, I got nothing else really for it. What do we want to... Okay, so next week we're, again, about the same time. We'll do it between 8 and 9. We're going to keep track of the loot box issue going on. What do we want to cover next week?
Let's see. Maybe some indie games.
Indie game. That is a broad one right there, but you know what? That'll be a good one. We'll go over some indie games that we like. In fact, let's make the topic good indie games that people may not have played that we would give our recommendation to. How's that?
That sounds good.
Sounds good. All right. So I got a few that I played. So loot boxes, indie games. We'll talk about any other news that might come up in the meantime. Until then, this was episode 2 of our podcast. Oh yeah, because I don't have your phone number. I do have a little surprise for everybody. We are going to have some special guests on the first. I've got a buddy of mine from the Marine Corps. We served together. He's going to be joining us for the podcast. He is a music producer now, and his girlfriend is going to be joining us as well, I believe. I need to find out the team name. And I don't want to spoil anything, so I might wait until then and just kind of let it be a surprise. But she is actually a professional Call of Duty player or a professional streamer. She is on a pro Call of Duty team, and they will be joining us for a podcast on the first, so we get to look forward to that. So, I don't know, you still there?
Yeah.
Yep, so we get to look forward to that one. So, other than that, I'm trying to line up some more people for the podcast. I got a few I'm looking at right now. See if I can get some bigger names in to join the podcast too. I doubt it. We're small, but we'll see. Yeah, I am looking to get some more people in on it too. So it's not just me, you, and Pelly whenever he shows up. So, other Other than that, next week, indie games, the loot box issue will continue, and we'll try to bring you some more gaming news. So, any final thoughts there, Dash?
No.
Nope. All right. I got nothing else either. Thank you guys for joining us. Dash, stay with me there just for a second after we end. Thank you guys for joining us. Please like and subscribe. Again, we do this podcast every Friday between 8 and 9. That's when we start. We go until we have nothing else. We started a little bit early this week because of the holiday. We have, people all over the place. It was just me and Dash. We went ahead and started early since we were both on. Join us next time. Thank you for stopping by, and we will see you later.